So, August is historically one of the quietest months of the year in real estate, with people enjoying the last bit of summer before the kids go back to school and we go back to business as usual. They're at cottages, they're having fun, they're not really focused on real estate. And not only that, but this year we have also had interest rate increases, as I'm sure that you've heard, which makes it harder for people to qualify for a mortgage or for the house that they wanted and could have gotten in the last 2 years when the cost to borrow money was much cheaper. With higher borrowing costs, people can afford less house and it may not fit the bill for most families. And I'm finding that a lot of buyer clients that I'm speaking with right now, the conversation is basically based on them readjusting their expectations. So let's review the last 7 months of the year. My intention was actually to do this at the half year review mark, but I'm human. I too want to be outside and I've been a little bit distracted by life myself. Now, I'm going to make this a 3-part series for the sake of it not being this extra long drawn out video. And the next 2 parts, I'm going to cover exactly how Toronto and Durham region have been performing throughout the year. Now, for those that don't know or are new here, my name is Alice Prince. I am a broker with Royal LePage Signature. I run a team called Prince & Co. And we primarily help clients buy and sell real estate through York region, Durham region, and Toronto. But if you're a parent watching this, and I'm sure that you know just how much kids think that YouTubers are cool, I too have little ones who are enthralled by YouTubers and they have recently challenged me. And so we're trying to get this little channel to grow to 500 subscribers. And hopefully this will show them too that their mom is cool and not just someone that hounds them to eat their vegetables. So please hit that like and subscribe button to help me achieve 500. It would mean the absolute world to me. And if you would like to know exactly how your home fares in this market, use the Calendly link below to book a time that is convenient for you and chat with me directly on what's going on in your community. Because although the market is shifted and the headlines are reporting some pretty terrible things, the real estate market can't be and shouldn't be painted with one brush. Each city, community, neighborhood, street is going to be impacted differently. So before we dive in here, just keep in mind that the last 2 years have been pretty wild in terms of price gains. And so anything compared to that is going to look a little bit scary and daunting. Over the last 2 years, detached homes in York region have seen price gains of 80% when measuring January 2020 to February 2022. And I'm using February because in those 2 years, that's when interest rates were 0.25%, which is next to nothing. Now we're actually starting to see the impact that rates are having on the marketplace since the peak of February. So 80% gains is mind-blowing and totally not sustainable. We know this, and I obviously never want anyone to be in a financial crisis or feel pinched in any way, but the transition into a slower market where people can actually make decisions based on logic and not this fear of missing out is something that I think is better for all. So we know that over the last 40 years in real estate, even with the crash in the 90s, the correction in 08 and 2017, the market has appreciated on an annual basis on average 7%. Now, for prices to increase almost $900,000 in 2 years is bananas and not healthy. But to put into perspective, if we were to take out the pandemic pricing gains and put them aside for a moment, the market was appreciating on an annual average basis of 15.4%. So 80% in 2 years is crazy. Now in this graph, we're going to be measuring detached homes in York region from January of this year till July. And in January, we started the year off strong with an average price of 1.925 million. Sales for that month equaled 486, and we had 576 active listings on the market. This puts us in a very strong seller's market with 1.1 months of inventory. And if you're wondering what the heck is months of inventory, well, it's basically just a fancy way of saying or measuring the absorption rate. So if we were to classify and measure each type of market, we would use the absorption rate to tell us exactly what kind of market that we're in. And we get this number by simply taking the active listings and dividing it by the number of sales to then equal a number. So let's say if that number is between 0 to 3, then we're considered to be in a seller's market. And we've experienced a very strong, spicy, hot seller's market for the last 2 years. And well, you know what has happened to prices in a seller's market. They go up very quickly and you're going to find yourself competing for homes. 4 to 6 months is a balanced market where prices typically stabilize and there's equal opportunity for buyers and sellers, and anything 6 plus is a buyer's market where buyers can expect prices to be in their favor. So you can see here From the numbers here that Q1 was the peak of the market, we started to hear early about the onset of interest rate hikes, and everyone seemed to kind of rush out and make a purchase in February and March. And the first hike of the year happened on March 2nd, and the Bank of Canada increased rates by 0.25% or 25 basis points. Now, the average price of a detached in York Region from then till now is down 20% or $412,000. So in March, prices started to come down and fell about 5%, but it's interesting to note that March was the only month this year where detached homes in York Region seen the most sales and inventory levels started to climb. From then on, sales started to decline and more people started to put their properties up for sale because likely they either wanted to cash out at the higher prices, or we even unfortunately seen some buyers not be able to close on their sale, which then brought the same property that was listed a month or two before come back onto the market. So that also increased listings. And so the increase in listings can mean a variety of things. In April, prices dropped another 7%. Sales were reduced by 35%. More inventory came on the market and months of inventory started to increase. And you can see we're on our way to a balanced market where prices typically stabilize. And you can see that from month to month, the percentage changes, the declines are actually getting smaller. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens in the coming months. April 13th, we had another interest rate hike and the Bank of Canada raised the rates by 50 basis points this time. In May, we've seen the highest number of listings, and this can be attributed to numerous factors, as I mentioned, because people might have been getting bad advice. Maybe people purchased at the peak of the market and were not able to close on their homes. People who may have wanted to get ahead of the market and sell for a decent price before we seen any further price drops. It was really a mixed bag of things. On June 1st, we had another interest rate hike of another 50 basis points that further had an impact on the market. And as you can see, prices steadily declined since then. Note that now we are approaching that balanced market territory, so it's going to be interesting to see what happens in the next couple of months and if prices are actually going to start to stabilize. So looking at townhouses in York Region, we started the year off the same as detached homes, meaning we were in a very strong seller's market. There was a less than 1 month of inventory. The absorption rate was sitting at 2 weeks, and it reflected in the price. The average price of a townhouse was $1.359 million. In February was the peak of the market, just as many parts of the GTA and the varying asset classes. But note here that this segment of the market, although down 20% from the peak, just as detached homes were, the dollar value is actually much less at $277,000. Now, if you're considering a move up from a townhouse to a detached house, now may be an opportune time because the gap between the two is smaller than it was at the beginning of the year. And in February, it would have cost you $612,000 more to jump up versus now it's $477,000. Now, don't get me wrong, this is still a lot of money, and depending on how much equity you have in your home and your personal financial situation, this will determine if it's the right move for you. From June to July, we've seen decrease in price month over month by 1%. 116 townhomes sold in July, which is basically what we've seen in January. The difference now is that obviously the rates are higher and there's 4 times more homes available for sale, and so buyers have more options, which spreads out the demand, which then spreads out the offers that a property would typically have gotten. And from my experience, buyers will spend their dollar differently when competing versus when they're at the negotiation table one-on-one with a seller. Now, when we look at condos, the average cost of a condo in York Region peaked at close to $800,000 in February, and buyers had almost next to nothing in terms of options available for sale. 323 buyers found either new condos to call home or as an investment. And in May, we've seen a 3% increase in average price. Now, keep in mind this could be skewed a little bit if larger penthouses sold during that time. May was when condo sales actually started to slow down. So between detached towns and condos seen the biggest jump in months of inventory, and now it's considered to be in a balanced market. So it's going to be interesting to see how this all plays out in the next coming months, and if we're going to feel September to be a somewhat of a typical fall market. Now, we are supposed to hear of another interest rate hike announcement on September 7th, so we could potentially see more price declines. Or we may see it to start to flatline because the initial sticker shock of rate increases, I think, is starting to dwindle as people that need housing or need to move because of job relocation, maybe needing more space or going through divorce or whatever it is, are starting to kind of wrap their heads around the fact that this is what it is, this is what they have to face, and they're going to make that move work for them. Every market will have its challenges. Every market has its pros and cons. And the last 2 years were very busy and a great market for sellers who are cashing out. But if you were a seller and then also a buyer in that market, you were probably facing a lot of challenge back then when it came time to purchase your home. Yes, interest rates were lower. Yes, it was less expensive to borrow money. But then on the flip side, you were also competing against 10, 15 offers, spending more money. And it's almost like you were forced to submit offers in something that you were not able to do your due diligence on. And as a buyer, you had zero time to think. Versus now, interest rates are a little bit higher, resulting in prices coming back down to earth, less competition if you're a buyer, and you can actually do things like a home inspection condition after getting your offer accepted. Now, I see and I hear it so often of how terrible the market is, and it's not. Is it different? Absolutely. Does it require new strategies? 100%. Is the market going to fit everybody's wants and needs? No, but it never does. So my advice to anyone looking to buy or sell in this market is to have a plan. Maybe have 2 or 3 plans, run a couple of different scenarios so that if you come across a hurdle, then you have a plan of exactly how you're going to face them. Also, ask a lot of questions. How good or bad the market is really depends on your situation and your long-term goals. So if a property you're purchasing is something that you plan on keeping for at least 5 years or longer, the longer that you hold onto the property should outweigh any dips and blips in the market. Go over not only the macro but the micro markets and how they're reacting. Each offer that you're going to submit is going to be a case-by-case scenario, so keeping that in mind will allow you to find that right deal for you. If you have any questions, concerns, or you want to know exactly what's happening in your area where you want to buy or sell, get in touch using the Calendly link below. And please remember to hit that like and subscribe button if you found some value in this, and help me show my kids that their mom is cool. Let's get this channel to 500, guys. It would mean the world. My name is Alice Prince. Ciao for now, and we'll catch you on the next one.